So maybe it's about time to share a little bit about me. And funny thing is, I always forget to say what my name is. My name is Jenny Lee. Never Jenny, never Jen. Nope. Jenny Lee, or you can call me Lux with Lux Healing. Both of those are wonderful. And my pronouns are she, they. So if you use they sometimes, that also makes my heart happy. Instead of just defaulting to what you're used to. I do really appreciate that. I won't go all the way back to the very beginning, but I will rewind about 10 years. 10 years ago, I was in seminary. I was pursuing a Master's of Divinity, and I was heavily involved in religion, especially studying Christian theology. And it was during that experience that I deconstructed my religious beliefs, and it was an incredibly painful yet liberating experience. And from there, it kind of launched me into my own exploration of spirituality and metaphysics beyond the constructs of religion. And it's been a really powerful journey over the last decade of not only liberating myself from religious doctrines and what really constituted my entire worldview. It informed everything. I had to sort of re-figure out who I was in the world and how the world worked and beyond the world. And I dove into a lot of different areas of study, exploring a lot of different things. Even for certain times, I thought like, oh, this is it, that is it, that is it. But then I kind of discovered over time that a lot of things in spirituality almost act kind of religiously, where it just creates another set of rules, another set of things you have to follow or fit yourself into. And each time I tried what I thought was the next most liberating thing I could put myself into, it eventually became the box I had to break out of. There's another creator here somewhere who talked about how she kind of felt the same, that she wasn't necessarily connected to any like specific box of spirituality, but instead she considered herself an alchemist. And I was like, I kind of like it. But what was interesting is that my external exploration of spirituality and breaking out of boxes and finding my own path and my own truth mirrored an exploration I was having within myself, exploring who I was beyond the construct of sexuality that I had grown up with, this idea that there was only straight. And then sort of opened the door to my queer self, and what does that look like? And even within that, there were certain boxes that again felt too restrictive, that for me, I could never fall just within, well, I guess if you're not one thing, then you're the other. I'm like, well, or I'll find the most undefined definition. And then even as I've explored my own gender and my expression of who I am as a being, I remember when I would come upon a non-binary person or someone who was using they, them pronouns, and I would just be like, I think that's awesome. And I remember even saying to myself, I feel like I could totally use those pronouns, but also I don't know if I would consider myself androgynous, right? Until I realized that, non-binary doesn't require an androgynous way of being. That is one way of expressing one's identity. And so it was this continual deepening and deepening of my understanding of myself. Not just my understanding, my exploration, my celebration, my deep acceptance and devotion to myself, as well as this exploration of what is true for me. What is this world? What is reality? What is beyond these things, this matter that I can see? And another piece too here is that I've always very much felt connected to nature and the sacred in nature, the divine in nature. And still to this day, I go out and I can talk with the forest in a way. And I really feel it plants kind of respond to me. And what's interesting is I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a green thumb, I don't necessarily live with a lot of plants or keep them alive. But the ones that are wild, we get along. And yeah, as I've been creating this space where I'm offering energy healings and maybe offering other things here, my thoughts on things, things I've learned, and then also opening it up to being available to hold space for others. So also as I was coming out of my seminary experience a decade ago and realizing that I was no longer going down the path of religion, that is when I came upon the modality of coaching. And that's when I got my certification and all the things and began exploring other ways of holding space for people where I wasn't telling them what was true, that they had to follow this certain thing, but I was holding a space where they could discover what's true for them. And that makes my heart happy. And then as my path continued, exploring energy healing in different ways and holding space that can include all sorts of things, like the sacredness of ritual, allowing spirituality to be a part of how we are holding space, of what we're entering into as you explore your questions that you're asking in life. And I will say this too, that I'm also someone that has really loved being a mystery. So sometimes exploring the question isn't just so you find an answer. It doesn't have to be this linear thing. Here's my question, I don't need an answer. Sometimes it's actually being in the question that is the answer. And even along this journey of exploring about myself, my sexuality, my gender, I also really came to this sense of understanding myself as a neurodivergent person, and that my mind and my nervous system and the way that I am in the world diverged from what was considered common or normal. And I knew that for a long time. I didn't necessarily have a word for it. And I kind of pieced it together over multiple decades, where I kept coming and saying, no, it's not just social anxiety. No, it's not just this thing that you keep telling me it is. Like there's something divergent about myself. And so that has been another path that I've explored and danced upon and walked and wept over and just had to come to a place of knowing myself, advocating for myself, showing up for myself, even when there wasn't a path to take. But instead, I had to forge my own way. And this is what I'm doing now. And so, there's a lot of my lived experience that helps me to be the person I am today, that can hold this space for other people, that can help you explore who you are, that can help you take those next steps on your path, whatever that may be. Even if it is that you're religious and you want to explore that, I hold deep respect for whatever your journey is. It does not have to look like mine, and it won't. I don't have any need to tell you what to do, but I do know how to hold space for you to discover what it is that you would like to do, who it is that you would like to be in this world. And creating that place of self-love and celebration to be it. So, if you would like to learn more about that, you can see my website where you can explore one-on-one sessions. I've also just put on there the Self-Love Circle, which is a community membership where we're going to be deeply exploring together self-love. And will involve some circles where we will see and be seen through facilitated practices, as well as energy healing nights, and over time, other things. So you are also invited to the Self-Love Circle if you enjoy more of a community experience, or just being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this page. Thank you for being in my world and however you are and whatever platform you found this on. I love your messages. I love any way that you enjoy interacting with these things I'm creating. It makes my heart happy. So thank you so much for being here. And this is just a little bit about me.